For the first time since the war in Ukraine began 11 weeks ago, a Russian soldier is being tried for war crimes. The 21-year-old tank commander seen here is the first Russian set to stand trial. Ukrainian officials are accusing the soldier of shooting and killing an unarmed 62-year-old civilian back in February. According to Ukraine's prosecutor general, the Russian soldier is charged with violating, quote, the laws and customs of war combined with premeditated murder. The soldier could face life in prison if he is found guilty. His attorney tells NBC News that the Russian soldier asked for a trial by judge as opposed to a jury and did not enter a plea. The lawyer also says that he cannot comment on whether the soldier had admitted any guilt or if he was cooperating with the investigation. According to the lawyer, the soldier surrendered to Ukrainian forces. This is just the start of Ukraine's attempts to prosecute Russian war crimes. Ukraine's prosecutor general says her office is investigating more than 10,000 war crimes involving more than 600 suspects, which include Russian soldiers and government officials. Now that Russian forces have retreated from Kyiv, the fog of war is starting to fade in the towns and suburbs near Ukraine's capital. Ukrainians are left to pick through the rubble and excavate the remains of their loved ones. They're finding dead bodies of civilians, the elderly, women, men, and children in mass graves and in the streets and inside people's backyards. And even in those trying circumstances, Ukraine's prosecutors and investigators are going to work. They're collecting the evidence, documenting fact by fact what has happened to these victims in order to build a case. Ukrainians are showing the world that accountability for what happens on the battlefield matters to them. Joining me now is Robert Goldman. He's a professor at American University's Washington College of Law. He's the faculty director of the school's War Crimes Research Office. Professor, thank you so much for being here today. I do want to start off by getting your take on the significance of Ukraine trying a Russian soldier for war crimes on Ukrainian soil. Is that a typical event versus maybe having it occur at The Hague, for example?
It's a good question, and it is somewhat unusual, particularly given the circumstances. That is, you have an ongoing armed conflict. Generally, these kinds of trials will occur after a conflict is over. A good example were Nuremberg after the unconditional surrender. Both the German and then in the Pacific, the Japanese forces, we conducted war crimes trials. In the case of the former Yugoslavia or the case of Rwanda, after the fact. There's certain benefits to this, that the evidence is fresh. The Ukrainians are being assisted by top human rights and law of war experts from Europe. The evidence, there's videotape evidence in some cases, as I understand it. But there's some dangers that are lurking. The first is that he has to get a trial that's in accordance not only with the Third Geneva Convention, the Prisoner of War Convention, but also under human rights law. So it presupposes an independent and impartial court. What I've seen so far is at least encouraging. I don't think that the Ukrainians will do anything but play this by the book. The danger lurking is this might incentivize Putin to put Ukrainian prisoners of war on trial. Perhaps they may have committed war crimes, but one would not put it by Putin to fabricate charges. Trial by an independent and impartial court by the Russians is simply not credible. We know what the legal system is. When they don't kill political opponents, they have kangaroo trials that lock these people up.
Professor, my question would be then, is there some value in having this trial occur then maybe at the, quote, conclusion of the war? We obviously don't know when that may occur. We don't even know how to define it necessarily. So is it just a fundamental practical reality that if the prosecutors want to move forward with this case? I'm a former prosecutor. I agree. If the evidence is fresh, if the memories are fresh, if the witnesses are willing to participate, the next of kin are there, do it now versus waiting till later. Is there the risk, though, that it's automatically going to be deemed to be some type of not impartial result because it's happening right now, especially if it's a trial by jury, and that's not really a jury of that man's peers?
Well, you make very valid points. As we've said, and you have pointed out that there is an advantage because of the contemporaneous nature of the gathering, eyewitness, preservation of forensics, which doesn't seem to be the case so much here, as I've read different things where apparently he has confessed to his attorney. He waived the right to a jury trial. Quite frankly, I'm surprised this is not taking place before a military tribunal, which is the normal thing with a prisoner of war. The benefit that this might have is, look, we're getting reports every day. The United Nations Human Rights High Commissioner recently came out and said that they've documented no less than 1,000 very suspicious deaths of civilians that may amount to be war crimes and systematic attacks, in other words, crimes against humanity. It kind of bolsters Ukraine's case that these things are taking place. It does have the risk in the eyes of some people that this may be, you can't say victor's justice because the armed conflict is ongoing. But this could be a conflict, as we all know, that could be protracted in time. Indeed, we may, and I would expect, frankly, we're going to see a situation like on the Korean Peninsula with no clear-cut winner. And then that drags that out. And then you have all the negative effects of recollection, collection of forensics, et cetera, et cetera. And it may also have an effect of saying to Russian troops, if you commit atrocity crimes, we're going to find you and we're going to try you. So it may have some deterrent effect. We'll have to see.
Professor, I wish we had more time because I would love to follow up with you. So I hope that you'll come back and we can do a little bit more analysis, maybe after the trial is over, and we could see exactly what the result is. But Professor Robert Goldman, thank you so much for being here.
Delighted. Thank you.